Hello, learners. Our topic for today is The Cold Within. It is written by James Patrick Kinney, an American poet who wrote this poem in the 1960s. The Cold Within is his best known poem. This poem conveys a deep message through a story about six human beings who are trapped together in extreme cold. It is about how we, as humans, are controlled by our thoughts and prejudices. You might ask, what is prejudice? Prejudice means preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. A simple example of prejudice would be a person having a prejudice for a particular color or religion and hating another person because of these reasons. The poem has an inspiring story which is simple, straight, and yet powerful. It has 8 stanzas and follows the rhyme scheme ABCB. It is a narrative relating six people who are sitting around a dying fire, but it has a universal moral. Hence, it is a parable, that is, a story with a moral. It inspires us to rise above the barriers of class, caste, race, color, religion, and promotes the concept of universal brotherhood. It tries to teach us that if we behave selfishly and do not share the resources that we have, then in the end we are all going to suffer. As a parable, it teaches us that we must be tolerant towards one another. No matter how different we are, we should be kind and generous towards each other. And the difference of color, caste, religion, or race should not be a reason for us to hate others. As the title suggests, the cold within refers to the cold in which these six humans are trapped. Metaphorically, the cold symbolizes the lack of feelings and warmth in the hearts of these people. It is the coldness of emotions within them that leads to their downfall. Another theme of the poem is the concept of sin, like anger, envy, prejudice, miserliness, and materialism. In the poem, each of these six persons is suffering from one or the other of the sin or prejudice towards each other. These six humans represent all of us in some way or the other. The sin in their hearts is universal, and at times we do find ourselves too acting in the same way. Let us start the poem. Six humans trapped by happenstance in bleak and bitter cold. Each one possessed a stick of wood, or so the story is told. The poem opens on a dramatic note and takes us straight to the place of action. The poet says that six humans were trapped by chance in a gloomy and severe cold. He calls them humans and not men, women, or persons, as humans symbolize all human beings. It is said that they were trapped there by chance, but it appears as if it was prearranged by some divine or godly power. They had no way to escape from that situation and had to stay together around a fire which was just about to die out. Each one of them had a log of wood in their hands. This log of wood is a metaphor or a symbol of their sins and selfishness. They can keep the fire burning only if they put the log of wood into the fire, but only when they overcome their selfishness. This is the story that is told to us when we begin the poem. The dying fire in need of logs, but the first one held us back. For off the faces round the fire, she noticed one was black. The first line here indicates the fire which is about to extinguish and is in need of logs. Fire has been personified and said to be dying in the same way as the emotions and care for each other is dying in the hearts of these six humans. The first one of this group is a woman who held her log of wood back from the fire as she saw that one of them was a black man sitting around the fire. She is filled with racial prejudice towards the black races and decides that she would not let her log of wood give benefit to a black man. The next man looking across the way saw not one of his church, and could not bring himself to give the fire his stick of birch. The next man looked around the fire and noticed that one of the persons sitting in the group did not belong to his religion, and he too did not put his log of wood into fire. He could not tolerate that person of another religion should get the warmth from his log of wood. Birch is a kind of tree that he was holding on. The third one sat in tattered clothes. He gave his coat a hitch. Why should his log be put to use to warm the idle rich? The third person, as described in the poem, is clearly a poor man. He was wearing worn out clothes. He felt that out of all the others sitting around him were richer than him. He pulled his coat tightly around him. He is full of bitterness and envy for the rich, and refused to put his log into the fire. He thought, why should he help the idle rich who are lazy and do not work as hard as him? He thought it would be unjust and foolish to give what little he had to those who had more than him. The rich man just sat back and thought of the wealth he had in store, and how to keep what he had earned from the lazy, shiftless poor. The next human in the poem is a rich man who just sat back and was thinking about all the wealth that he had collected by his efforts and hard work. In this moment, when the fire in front of him was in need of logs, he kept wondering how he could save his wealth and earnings from the poor people. He thought that the poor had an eye over his wealth and would take it away from him. His accumulated wealth had made him greedy, stingy, and self centered. He did not want to give anything to the lazy and the aimless poor. The black man's face bespoke revenge as the fire passed from his sight, for all he saw in his stick of wood was a chance to spite the white. The black man sitting in the group had been looking around at the people beside him. He saw the fire dying, but his face and his heart were full of revenge for the white people. He had hatred for the white races who had mistreated him for his black color. He too refused to put his log into the fire, as he found this a good chance to take revenge from the whites and hurt them. He could have put his log of wood to the fire, but his prejudice did not allow him to do so. The last man of this forlorn group did not accept for gain. Giving only to those who gave was how he played the game. Even when six people are sitting around a fire, the group is called forlorn, which means sad and lonely. It shows that even though they were all stuck in the same situation, each of them was lonely and only thought of himself and his own gain. Each of them was suffering from their prejudices and sin. The last man in the group just sat there, looking around and waited for someone else to put their log into the fire. He believed in helping only those who helped him. He was selfish and materialistic and expected return for everything he did. So he did nothing, and this is how he played the game. The game that is referred here is of give and take, giving only to those who would help him back. Their logs held tight in death's still hands was proof of human sin. They did not die from the cold without, they died from the cold within. In the last stanza, we are told that they all froze to death. But even when they all were dead, each of them still had their log of wood in their hand, which was a symbol of the sin and selfishness in their hearts. Their hatred and prejudice did not allow them to put their log into the fire, which could have kept the fire burning and saved their lives. The last two lines are symbolic, so you must read them carefully. It says that they did not die due to the cold weather conditions. They died from the cold within their hearts. The coldness in hearts shows the lack of warmth and care for each other. They had no humanity left in them. Had they overcome their prejudices, hatred, and selfishness, they would have put their log into the fire and would have survived. Though they had the chance to save the fire, they are unable to think beyond the boundaries of class, race, religion, and self interest. They are not only physically dead, but also spiritually dead. The poem is a simple yet powerful reminder that if we selfishly hold on to the world's resources and our wealth, and if we keep on discriminating and mistreating each other on the basis of race, religion, caste, gender, and class, we shall all reach nowhere. The literary devices used in the poem here are metaphor. The log of wood is a metaphor for sin. It symbolizes the evils within the hearts of people. All these six people represent us, the people in the world, who are suffering from some kind of sin, which does not allow us to be kind, caring, and loving towards one another. Personification. The words dying fire shows fire as a living being who is about to die and needs log of wood to survive. As it is not provided with any log, it eventually dies out. Death's still hand implies death as a living being and has hands and has embraced all these six people who were unwilling to put their log into the fire. Imagery. The images and objects described in the poem are symbolic and represent the idea of sin and selfishness. I hope you have understood the poem and you know that by helping others, we also help ourselves.